a WikiVidi documentaries production. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Enjoy. Richard Blumenthal. Richard Blumenthal is an American attorney and politician who has served as a United States Senator from Connecticut since 2011. He is a member of the Democratic Party. He has been the state's senior senator since 2013 and is ranked as the second wealthiest member of the Senate. Previously, he served as Attorney General of Connecticut from 1991 to 2011. Born in Brooklyn, New York, Blumenthal attended Riverdale Country School, a private school in the Bronx. Blumenthal is a graduate of Harvard College, where he was editorial chairman of the Harvard Crimson. He studied for a year at Trinity College, Cambridge, in England before attending Yale Law School, where he was editor-in-chief of the Yale Law Journal. While at Yale, he was a classmate of future President Bill Clinton and future Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. From 1970 to 1976, Blumenthal served in the United States Marine Corps Reserve, where he attained the rank of sergeant. After college, Blumenthal served as administrative assistant and law clerk for several Washington, D.C. figures. From 1977 to 1981, he was United States Attorney for the District of Connecticut. In the early 1980s he worked in private law practice, including serving as volunteer counsel for the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. He served in the Connecticut House of Representatives from 1985 to 1987, when he was elected to the Connecticut Senate. He was elected Attorney General of Connecticut in 1990, and served for 20 years. During this period he was frequently speculated as a contender for governor of Connecticut, but he never pursued the office. Blumenthal announced his 2010 run for U.S. Senate after incumbent Democratic Senator Chris Dodd announced his retirement. He faced professional wrestling magnate Linda McMahon in the 2010 election, winning by a 12-point margin with 55% of the vote. On January 5, 2011, he was sworn in and took seats on the Senate Armed Services, Judiciary, Aging and Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committees. He became Connecticut's senior senator after the retirement of Joe Lieberman in 2013. He won re-election in 2016 with 63.2% of the vote, becoming the first person to achieve more than 1 million votes in a statewide election in Connecticut. Early life and education. Blumenthal was born in Brooklyn, New York, the son of Jane and Martin Blumenthal, who was the president of a commodities trading firm. His grandfather, Fritz Rosenstock, raised cattle on his farm, where Blumenthal visited often in his youth. Blumenthal's father was a Jewish immigrant from Frankfurt, Germany who emigrated alone at 17. Blumenthal attended Riverdale Country School in the Riverdale section of the Bronx before graduating from Harvard College with a B degree magna cum laude as a member of Phi Beta Kappa. As an undergraduate, he was editorial chairman of the Harvard Crimson. Blumenthal was a summer intern reporter for the Washington Post in the London bureau. Blumenthal was also selected for a Fisk Fellowship that allowed him to study at the University of Cambridge in England for 1 year after graduation from Harvard College. In 1973, Blumenthal received his JD degree from Yale Law School, where he was editor-in-chief of the Yale Law Journal. While at Yale, he was classmates with future President Bill Clinton and future Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. One of his co-editors on the Yale Law Journal was future United States Secretary of Labor Robert Reich. His brother, David Blumenthal, is the president of the Commonwealth Fund. Military service. Blumenthal received 5 draft deferments during the Vietnam War, obtaining first educational deferments, and then deferments based on his occupation, with part-time service in the reserves, or National Guard, generally regarded as an alternative for those wishing to avoid serving in Vietnam. In April 1970, Blumenthal enlisted in the United States Marine Corps Reserve, and he served in units in Washington, D.C. and Connecticut from 1970 to 1976, attaining the rank of sergeant. During his 2010 Senate campaign, news reports that Blumenthal had claimed or implied that he'd served in Vietnam during the war created a controversy. Blumenthal denied having intentionally misled voters into believing he fought in Vietnam, but acknowledged having occasionally misspoken about his service record. and later apologized for remarks about his military service he said had not been clear or precise. Early political career. Blumenthal served as administrative assistant to Senator Abraham A. Ribicoff, as aide to Daniel P. Moynihan when Moynihan was assistant to President Richard Nixon, and as a law clerk Judge John O. Newman, U.S. District Court of the District of Connecticut, and to Supreme Court Justice Harry A. Blackmun. At age 31, he became United States Attorney for the District of Connecticut, serving from 1977 to 1981. And as the chief federal prosecutor of that state successfully prosecuted many major cases involving drug traffickers, organized crime, white-collar criminals, civil rights violators, consumer fraud, and environmental pollution. In 1982, he married Cynthia Allison Malkin, daughter of real estate investor Peter L. Malkin and granddaughter of lawyer and philanthropist Lawrence Veen. Before he became Attorney General, Blumenthal was a partner in the law firm of Cummings and Lockwood, and subsequently in the law firm of Silver, Golub, and Sandbach. In December 1982, while still at Cummings and Lockwood, he created and chaired the Citizens Crime Commission of Connecticut, a private, non-profit organization. From 1981 to 1986, he was a volunteer counsel for the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. In 1984, when he was 38, Blumenthal was elected to the Connecticut House of Representatives, representing the 145th District. In 1987, he won a special election to fill a vacancy in the 27th District of the Connecticut Senate. At the age of 41, Blumenthal resided in Stamford, Connecticut. In the 1980s, Blumenthal testified in the state legislature in favor of abolishing Connecticut's death penalty statute. He did so after representing Florida death row inmate Joseph Green Brown, who had been wrongly convicted. Blumenthal succeeded in staving off Brown's execution just 15 hours before it was scheduled to take place. Pequot land annexation bid. In May 1995, Blumenthal and the state of Connecticut filed lawsuits challenging a decision by the Department of the Interior to approve a bid by the Mashantucket Pequots for the annexation of 165 acres of land in the towns of Ledyard, North Stonington and Preston. The Pequots' bid sought to have the land placed in a federal trust, a legal designation that would have given the tribe sovereign control. Blumenthal argued that the Interior Department's decision was fatally, legally flawed, and unfair, and that it would unfairly remove land from the tax rolls of the surrounding towns and bar local control over how the land is used, while imposing a tremendous burden. The tribe announced the withdrawal of the land annexation petition in February 2002. Interstate air pollution. In 1997, both Blumenthal and Governor John G. Rowland petitioned the United States Environmental Protection Agency to address interstate air pollution problems created from Midwest and Southeastern sources. The petition was filed in accordance with Section 126 of the Clean Air Act, which allows a United States state to request pollution reductions from out-of-state sources that contribute significantly to its air quality problems. In 2003, Blumenthal and the Attorneys General of 8 other states filed a federal lawsuit against the Bush administration for endangering air quality by gutting a critical component of the Federal Clean Air Act. The suit alleged that changes in the Act would have exempted thousands of industrial air pollution sources from the Act's new source review provision and that the new rules and regulations would lead to an increase in air pollution. Big Tobacco. While Attorney General, Blumenthal was one of the leaders of a 46-state lawsuit against the tobacco industry, which alleged that the companies involved had deceived the public about the dangers of smoking. Blumenthal argued that the state of Connecticut should be reimbursed for Medicaid expenses related to smoking. In 1998, the tobacco companies reached a $246 billion national settlement, giving the 46 states involved 25 years of reimbursement payments. Connecticut's share of the settlement was estimated at about $3.6 billion. In December 2007, Blumenthal filed suit against R.J. Reynolds alleging that a 2007 Camel advertising spread in Rolling Stone magazine used cartoons in violation of the Master Tobacco Settlement, which prohibited the use of cartoons in cigarette advertising, because they entitled entice children and teenagers to smoke. The company paid the state of Connecticut $150,000 to settle the lawsuit, and agreed to end the advertising campaign in question. Microsoft lawsuit. In May 1998, Blumenthal, along with attorneys general from 19 other states and the District of Columbia, filed an antitrust lawsuit against Microsoft accusing the company of abusing its monopoly power to stifle competition. The suit, which centered on Microsoft's Windows 98 operating system and the company's contractual restrictions imposed on personal computer manufacturers to tie the operating system to its Internet Explorer browser, was eventually merged with a federal case brought by the United States Department of Justice under Attorney General Janet Reno. A 2000 landmark federal court decision ruled that Microsoft had violated antitrust laws, and the court ordered that the company be broken up. In 2001, the Federal Appeals Court agreed, but rather than break up the company, sent the case to a new judge to hold hearings and determine appropriate remedies. Remedies were later proposed by Blumenthal and 8 other attorneys general. These included requiring that Microsoft license an unbundled version of Windows in which middleware and operating system code were not commingled. In 2001, the Bush administration's DOJ settled with Microsoft in an agreement criticized by many states and other industry experts as insufficient. In November 2002, a federal court ruling imposed those same remedies. In August 2007, Blumenthal, along with 5 other states and the District of Columbia, filed a report alleging that the federal settlement with Microsoft and court-imposed Microsoft remedies had failed to adequately reduce Microsoft's monopoly. Stanley Works. On May 10, 2002, then Attorney General Blumenthal and Connecticut State Treasurer Denise L. Napier helped to stop the hostile takeover of New Britain-based Stanley Works, a major Connecticut employer, by filing a lawsuit alleging that the move to reincorporate in Bermuda based on a shareholders' vote of May 9 was rife with voting irregularities. The agreement to temporarily halt the move was signed by New Britain Superior Court Judge Marshall Berger. On June 3, Blumenthal referred the matter to the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission for further investigation. And on June 25 he testified before the U.S. House Committee on Ways and Means that long-time American corporations with operations in other countries can dodge tens of millions of dollars in federal taxes by the device of reincorporating in another country, by simply filing incorporation papers in a country with friendly tax laws, open a post office box and hold an annual meeting there, and that Stanley Works, along with Cooper Industries, Seagate Technologies, Ingersoll Rand and PricewaterhouseCoopers Consulting, to name but a few, have also become pseudo-foreign corporations for the sole purpose of saving tax dollars. Blumenthal stated that corporations proposing to reincorporate to Bermuda, such as Stanley, often tell shareholders that there is no material difference in the law, but said that this was not the case and was misleading to their shareholders. In order to rectify this situation, he championed the Corporate Patriot Enforcement Act to close tax loopholes. Charter schools lawsuit. In September 1999, Blumenthal announced a lawsuit against Robin Barnes, the president and treasurer of New Haven-based charter school The Village Academy, for serious financial mismanagement of the state-subsidized charitable organization. Citing common law, Blumenthal's suit sought to recover money misspent and serious damages resulting from Barnes' alleged breach of duty. In a Connecticut Supreme Court decision, Blumenthal v. Barnes, a unanimous court determined that the state's attorney general could act using only the powers specifically authorized by the state legislature, and that since the attorney general's jurisdiction is defined by statute rather than common law, Blumenthal lacked the authority to cite common law as the basis for filing suit against Barnes. Despite this ruling, Blumenthal announced that he intended to pursue a separate 2000 lawsuit against the school's trustees filed on behalf of the State Department of Education. Regional Transmission Organization. In 2003, Blumenthal, along with former Massachusetts Attorney General Tom Riley, Rhode Island Attorney General Patrick C. Lynch, and consumer advocates from Connecticut, Maine, and New Hampshire, opposed the formation of a regional transmission organization that would merge three Northeast and Mid-Atlantic power operators, called Independent Service Operators, into a single super-regional RTO. In a press release he is quoted as saying, "This fatally flawed RTO proposal will raise rates, reduce accountability and reward market manipulation. It will increase the power and profits of transmission operators with an immediate $40 million price tag for consumers." The opposition was due to a report authored by Synapse Energy Economics Incorporated, a Cambridge-based energy consulting firm, which alleged that consumers would be worse off under the merger. Gina Kolb lawsuit. In 2004, Blumenthal sued Computer Plus Center of East Hartford and its owner, Gina Kolb, on behalf of the state. It was alleged that CPC overcharged $50 per computer, $500,000 in total, on a 3-year, $17.2 million contract to supply computers to the state. Blumenthal sued for $1.75 million. Kolb was arrested in 2004 and charged with first-degree larceny. Kolb later countersued, claiming the state had grossly abused its power. Kolb was initially awarded $18.3 million in damages. However, the Attorney General appealed the decision, and the damages initially awarded were slashed by 90% to $1.83 million. In ruling, Superior Court Judge Barry Stevens described the jury's initial award of $18.3 million as a shocking injustice, and said it was influenced by partiality or mistake. Big East and ACC. Attorney General Blumenthal played a pivotal role in one of the biggest college athletics stories of the decade: expansion of the Atlantic Coast Conference and the departures of Boston College, Miami, and Virginia Tech from the Big East. He led efforts by the Big East football schools in legal proceedings against the Atlantic Coast Conference, the University of Miami and Boston College, accusing them of improper disclosure of confidential information and of conspiring to dismantle the Big East. According to Blumenthal, the case was pursued because the future of the Big East Conference was at risk, the stakes huge for both state taxpayers and the university's good name. The suits cost the schools involved $2.2 million in the first 4 months of litigation. The lawsuit against the ACC was initially dismissed on jurisdictional grounds, but was subsequently refiled. A declaratory judgment by the Supreme Judicial Court of Massachusetts exonerated Boston College in the matter. Virginia Tech accepted an invitation from the ACC and withdrew from the suit to remove themselves from the awkward position of suing their new conference. An out-of-court settlement in the amount of $5 million was eventually reached, which included a $1 million exit fee that Boston College was required to pay the Big East under the league's constitution. Some have speculated that the lawsuit was one of the biggest reasons that the University of Connecticut was not sought after by the ACC during their 2011 editions of then Big East members Syracuse and Pittsburgh. UConn is currently a member of the less lucrative American Athletic Conference, the successor to the original Big East. Brought to you by WikiVidi Documentaries. Would you like to know more?